Good afternoon, Cardi Club members. We have with us the Sheriff of Fayette County and the Chief of Fayette County with us today. And we thought we would do a little career story of what it's like a day in the life of a sheriff or a police officer. So we'll start out with Chief Deputy Biven. What do you do in your daily, what is your daily tasks? What are they?
My daily task can be a mixture of things. So first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate you asking me to join. My job as a chief deputy, I serve as the second in command to Sheriff Stanforth. And basically my job is to run the day-to-day operations of all the divisions within the sheriff's office. That includes administrative, patrol, detective bureau, records, civil division, and also, monitoring things in the jail as well.
That is super cool. Thank you for sharing. Sheriff Stanforth, what do you do as the sheriff?
Well, because I have Chief Bivens, I don't have to do much. My job overall is as an administrator, as a chief law enforcement officer of the county. I have to oversee and make sure that the guys have the tools and equipment that they need to do the job. I work daily on budgeting, legislative issues to make sure that we are complying with all the new laws that the state legislature and the Congress may pass. Supreme Court rulings, I study those and sign bills. I mean, on a daily basis, we're processing payments for prisoner health care, for food for the jail, for uniforms for the deputies, gasoline for the deputies. We're paying those bills, and that's part of Chief Bivens' process. We have a fiscal officer that passes those bills on to Chief Bivens, who reviews all those, makes sure everything is appropriate, and then he passes them on to me for final approval. And then once I assign them, they're sent out to the county auditor to actually pay those particular bills after we've gone through our process. I work, Chief Bivens will work the road often. He works the road more frequently than I do anymore. But he'll be out on the road on different calls. We get called out on major crimes, and we both will end up go out on major crimes, whether it be a homicide or a car fatality. We review all the paperwork from the deputies as they're doing their investigations, and that's all. That's all encumbered in the day's process. But not every day is the same. I may go all day without having a major crime occur, which is a good thing. And then there may be times we get 3 or 5 calls at a time. And we're a small county. It's only 29,000 people in Fayette County. The law enforcement reflects the population. And we're not like the larger counties where we may only have 2 or 3 deputies out on patrol at any given time. And whereas the major counties may have 12 or 24 deputies out patrolling their counties. It depends on the size, population, and so forth.
Well, that is cool to know. This is a question for either of you guys. What's the difference between what you guys do rather than what the city police do?
Well, the difference, one of the differences, and being all due respect to other law enforcement agencies, because they work very hard at protecting their jurisdictions. But as city police can only function inside the city limits. Once they go outside into the county, they are not permitted to perform law enforcement functions. They can't do policing outside the city. And the sheriff has jurisdiction anywhere in the county, including the city's and the villages and the townships countywide. There's no restriction on where I can go in the county. The State Patrol, they have very limited law enforcement powers. Even though they may be statewide, they don't have police powers in the state except on state property, like a state park, state highways. In other words, they can't come to your home to investigate a burglary because that's not a state property. Now, they can investigate a burglary at a state park because that's on state grounds. But their major function, majority of the function of the State Patrol is traffic enforcement. And they can investigate crimes related to traffic enforcement. But that's the difference in the three agencies is the police and the State Patrol are what's called limited law enforcement, where the sheriff has unlimited law enforcement. Our jurisdiction within the county is supreme.
That is super cool. Chief Bivens, what kind of patrol cars do you guys use? What makes and models?
We got a mixture right now of Dodge Chargers. And we also have some what's called the Ford Police Interceptor SUVs. We've just started getting some of those in 2020, but the majority of our fleet of patrol vehicles are Dodge Chargers, which is what I drive.
Well, that's super cool. Would you mind to walk us through and show us your duty belt and what's on the duty belt?
Sure. Let me stand up here. So are you able to see this?
Yep.
Okay. So what we have in the front, these are our magazines. Okay. In other words, these are what goes in our weapon. This is what carries our ammunition. Okay. And I have two of those, as you can see on my belt. This package here, or pouch here, is a pager, which the office can contact me on anytime, day or night. We have a portable radio, which is how we communicate when we're outside the car. And then we have handcuffs. And that's really all I carry on my duty belt. But again, I'm in the office quite a bit, although I do work patrol some. But some of the other guys that are working patrol, they carry batons on their belt. They also carry tasers. One of the other things that the guys carry on their belt is also tourniquets that they're able to easily access if they have someone that has excessive bleeding. They're able to tourniquet that injury and that bleed and stop that. But other than that, that's pretty much what we carry on our belt.
And the pepper spray.
I'm sorry?
I said, and the pepper spray as well.
We do not carry pepper spray here, but yes, many law enforcement agencies do carry pepper spray.
Hold on. What training is involved in what you both do?
There's a lot of initial training that you'll go through when you get into law enforcement. There's also a lot of continuing training once you're in law enforcement. So the initial training that you take with law enforcement, depending on what division that you're working in, if you're working in the jail, you may have someone that goes to Basic Corrections Academy, which teaches them how to operate the jail. teaches them how to control prisoner movement, handcuffing, self-defense, that type of stuff. Then you also have training with the Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy, which is where you would go to become a peace officer. Okay, that's going to be all your training pertaining to laws, training that pertains to investigating crimes, driving, firearms training, self-defense. I'm sure there's a lot of other things in the training component now, but and then, like I said, as you go through, and you are working, and we still have people that go to school each and every year for different things, different topics. Some things are just updated or refresher of topics on basic laws that we see. Domestic violence is one of those big laws that we do a lot of refresher training on. We also have, up-to-date training on any new laws that are passed by Congress. So that type of stuff. If the sheriff's got anything he wants to add there.
Well, with the sheriff, as a sheriff, I have additional training I have to go through, not to get the job. Basically, I have to be a certified peace officer. And I have to live in the county that I'm going to run for sheriff. There's basic requirements. But once I'm sheriff, every year I have to have 16 hours of training. That is sheriff level training, administrative level training. That is mandated to me for me to keep the office. I have to do that every year that I'm in office. The patrol officers have an additional, this year, 20 hours of training they have to do. It's called continuing professional training. And they have to do that every year. And that hours is based on legislation each year and the funding available for that each year from the state of Ohio. This year for 2022, I think it's 20 hours,
24 hours.
4 hours, yeah. And those topics are selected as what they have to do. They're mandated topics to be able to maintain their peace officer certification. A point of interest for you as well is that I oversee all the peace officers in the state of Ohio as chairman of the Ohio Peace Officers Training Commission. So there are 34,000 peace officers in Ohio. And I have the privilege at this point of serving as the chairman and overseeing their training across the state of Ohio. So training is a big issue for me, not only for my office, but for the state of Ohio.
Well, these are super cool facts you guys are sharing. Thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to share. A couple more questions. I know, Sheriff Vernon, you had told me at church that you drive how do I say this? You don't drive a marked car. What's the difference between a marked car and not a marked car? What kind of equipment does one carry that another doesn't?
Well, I don't have the volume of equipment that would be in a marked car. Marked car, you understand what a marked car is. That's one with the star on the side and the yellow stripes. And the patrol cars are black with the gold stripes and the big star on the door. But inside the car is a lot of equipment that we provide for all the deputies when they're out and about. They live in that car for 8 hours. That's their office for 8 hours. They've got all the reporting, they've got their computers, they've got their weapons, they've got first aid kits, they've got numerous things in that car readily if they're available, accessible to them for their 8 hours patrol. I don't have that in my car. My car is basically an unmarked car. It does have lights on it, it has a siren on it, but that's all the equipment I basically carry in my car other than a few first aid things. I don't do traffic enforcement with my unmarked car. We're not permitted to initiate traffic enforcement with an unmarked car. Now, if someone violates the law in front of me, I can turn my lights on and stop them, but I can't go out there and work speed violations with an unmarked car. It has to be a marked car. And that's just being fair to the public. So if they see a car out there, they know that they need to slow down. But an unmarked car, you can do some things, you can watch things, you can be in and accessible to things without being distinguished as a police vehicle. That's why that's the difference between my car and a police car. Captain McFarland is also just got in the room with Chief Bibbins, so they're on the same.
And if you have any questions for Captain McFarland, I can definitely get up and let him have my seat if you want to ask him anything pertaining to the jail or about his job.
I do have a couple, but one question for you. What kind of equipment do you have in your car, Chief Bivens?
In mine, I have basically the same thing that the sheriff has. The Dodge Charger that I drive right now is also an unmarked Dodge Charger. So I do have lights, siren, radio, and I carry some equipment in my car that I may need if I need to go help the guys on the road with something. A lot of the forms and things that we use, statement forms, accident statements, that type of stuff I carry in my car. But again, I don't carry or have the equipment in my car that is anywhere comparable to what the guys have in the patrol cars. In the patrol cars are camera systems where their dash cam video that's all recorded. That's not anything that we have in the unmarked cars.
All right, well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to answer some questions.
You're welcome. And I'll put Captain McFarland on.
All right.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Captain McFarland. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
What do you do in the jail?
My job in the jail is I basically oversee what's going on in the jail on a day-to-day basis, along with Lieutenant Weidman, making sure that the inmates receive the care that they should be getting when they're in jail, such as medical care, making sure they're fed, processing inmate grievances if the inmates are in jail and there's something happens that they don't like. That's part of our duties in there as well, is to make sure that those are taken care of. Check reports. There's incident reports that happen every day. If something happens in jail, they have to do an incident report. So those are kind of the things that I do on a day-to-day basis while I'm in the jail.
What kind of security is in the jail and what kind of maintenance is involved in maintaining that security?
Well, there's a lot of security in the jail. The jail that we have now is so much different from the jail we had before. The security, there's numerous cameras in the jail. That's the biggest thing that we have for security. And all those cameras are on screens in the central control where a person that's in there can watch and review those cameras if they need to. There are different doors. So someone can't walk out of the jail. Central control has to open doors in the jail, has to let people in and out of the jail. And they can't, as a security feature, someone can't walk out by going out one door. They have to go through two doors to get out of the jail. And those two doors can't be opened at the same time. So they call it a security vestibule. So that if someone were to get in there and they shouldn't get out, they can't go on out to the outside. The windows in the jail are basically bulletproof glass. They're really thick glass, and the windows have bars on them as well, so someone couldn't knock that out and escape. It's just very, very secure. There's a lot of the doors aren't like the normal door in the house or anything. They're very heavy doors. They have very heavy locks on them that you can't bust through or break through or anything like that.
Yeah, I came to the new
Oh, did you?
jail opening tour. And yeah, those doors are heavy.
Yes.
Well, on seeing how you work in the jail, I know you don't carry gun or anything like that because you're not permitted to, from what I understand. But what do you carry on you as you're working in the jail, if anything?
I usually have a radio on and handcuffs. The jail staff, the corrections deputies, they will have handcuffs, and they carry a radio, and they carry what we call a cut down tool, which is kind of like a knife, but it's round at the end so that you can't stab someone or something with it. So if they need to cut something, they have that available to them. But they don't carry a lot of equipment while they're in the jail. They also carry a few keys because some of the doors they have to have a lock or a key to get into some places. Some closet doors and things like that aren't controlled by central control.
All righty. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for taking your time out with us. And Mr. White, do you have any finalized questions?
I just have one thing that I'd like to bring up and get some maybe some sharing, probably from Sheriff Stanford. I have I before I came to OHVA, I taught in a traditional high school, and my next door neighbor teacher was the law enforcement teacher. And one of the things that I found to be so interesting is when they would do a crime or a car accident investigation, where they used all kinds of math and science to be able to determine pretty much everything that could be determined about that accident. And I just thought it was really interesting how much of the math and science was involved in and what you could determine just from like the length of a skid mark and that sort of thing. So if you could share just a little bit of
Well,
that.
One of the things that the luxury I have is I don't have to know all that stuff. I have to get people that know that stuff. And fortunately, Captain McFarland, before he was assigned to work in the jail, he was the commander over the patrol division, and he is a crash reconstructionist, and he can tell you he's been through the course, and so Captain McFarland should be able to tell you exactly the science that's behind that.
Do you have a particular question?
Oh, I was just to kind of let our students that are involved know that kind of all of the variables that can go into establishing speed and that sort of thing of a car based on the length of skid marks. And
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that the speed of a vehicle can be determined. Length of the skid mark, we can determine the speed of a vehicle based on skid marks, and then let's say it vaults and goes up into the air and rolls. By the distance that it from it leaving the ground until it touching again, we can get a speed from that. The number of times it rolls, we can get a speed for that. The amount of crush the car has, what the front may crush down when it hits another object, we can get speed from that. Yeah, there's a lot of math, there's a lot of physics involved in it. It's very, very interesting, but there's a lot that can be gleaned from a crash that many people may not realize.
yeah, that's what I learned. I was an auto tech teacher, and so we kind of teamed up together where we take one of our cars out and actually create some skid marks, and then he could go through. He had been with he was retired officer from the State Highway Patrol, and he'd teach the kids how they could go through and do all of that, and I know that was one of the things that I think I always stress to students that tell me that they're interested in going into law enforcement is that it's not quite what you see on TV sometimes. That there's a whole lot more of just a whole lot more of academics really that go into the job of being a police officer. So.
Well, one thing I can share about that, I know when I was in school, and especially in high school, and we had our math classes, whether it be geometry or whatever, I was always thinking, well, I'm never going to use this. I don't need to use this, but you never know what's going to happen. So make sure that you absorb as much as you can when you're in school, because your plans may change and you may not realize that you are going to need the things that they're actually teaching you.
Yep. Yeah. as going through high school wanting to be an auto mechanic, I thought, why am I ever going to use geometry? And now I have this side business where I build hot rods and I'm welding up frames and things like that,
Right.
and realize that geometry is super important. And I regularly have to go back to my textbooks and learn something new. So,
Mhm.
yep, we all kind of experience that, I think, as we go through life. So that is all
Our,
I really have. So thank you,
yep,
gentlemen.
that's alrighty, Cardi Club members. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you, Fayette County Sheriff and Chief Bivens and Lieutenant McFlarland. I'm gonna say this wrong.
Captain
McFlarland,
McFarland.
Captain
McFarland.
Captain McFarland. Thank you, and till next time.